Hey everyone! Welcome to Update X24H, your go-to channel for the latest news, hottest dramas, breaking stories, and all the buzz from the world of entertainment. We're here to keep you updated, entertained, and always in the loop. Hit that subscribe button and join our growing family, because here at Update X24H, we bring you the news that matters, the drama you love, and the stories you can't miss. Thanks for being part of our community. Let's stay connected, stay updated, and keep the good vibes rolling. A young star's life cut short, a family's cry for truth, and a police statement that has left millions asking, is justice even possible? Tonight, we uncover the unanswered questions surrounding Menglong's mysterious death, and why the latest official words have only deepened the storm. At this moment in the story, we must look beyond the simple telling of events, and begin to understand why Menglong's case has resonated so deeply across nations and generations. His death is not seen only as the loss of a rising star in Chinese entertainment. It has become a mirror reflecting society's greatest fears about truth, trust, and justice. When a young life ends suddenly under circumstances filled with contradictions, people are reminded of how fragile safety really is. What began as whispers of a private tragedy has grown into a cultural storm that stretches far beyond China's borders, stirring emotions in audiences from New York to Seoul, Tokyo to Paris, and from Bangkok to Sydney. It is no longer just about one man's fate. It has become about the universal human need to know whether truth can still prevail when power, silence, and doubt cast their long shadows. For fans, the impact is deeply personal. They remember his performances, his voice, his presence, and they cannot accept the idea that his story should end without clarity. For his family, it is the pain of losing a son while fighting a system that seems unwilling to provide real answers. For the wider public, it is a test of faith in institutions, in justice, and in the promise that no life should be dismissed as expendable. The inconsistencies, the missing evidence, and the vague statements have left people with more questions than answers, and each question cuts deeper into the trust between authorities and the communities they serve. The reason this case matters is that it refuses to be silenced. It challenges people everywhere to confront uncomfortable truths, that evidence can disappear, that official words can obscure rather than reveal, and that grief can either be crushed into silence or rise into a powerful call for justice. Menglong's name has become more than a headline. It has become a symbol of how one story can ignite a movement, how one family's grief can awaken a nation's conscience, and how one unanswered question can echo far louder than 1,000 official explanations. This is why the world continues to watch, to care, and to demand more. The story matters because it speaks to all of us who believe that justice must never be optional, and that truth, however painful, deserves to be told. On the night Menglong lost his life, a cloud of silence settled over the scene, but within that silence lay fragments that continue to disturb anyone who has followed this case. Neighbors spoke of voices raised in the dark, a sharp reminder that moments before tragedy, there may have been conflict, fear, or confrontation. Then came the sudden absence of sound, an eerie stillness that seemed to foreshadow what was about to unfold. Hours later, his body was discovered, lifeless on the ground, and yet the details surrounding those final hours have never fit neatly into the explanation of an accident. The door to his room was locked from within, a fact that should have suggested isolation and safety, yet evidence around him whispered of intrusion and tampering. Broken glass scattered near the window did not align with the supposed fall. Blood stains on the shards suggested struggle, while footprints near the balcony hinted at another presence that had not been acknowledged. These pieces did not form a clear picture, but rather a mosaic of contradictions that challenged the narrative of a man simply collapsing under exhaustion. The more investigators spoke of accident, the more people looked at the details and asked why they contradicted the story. How does a locked door lead to an unguarded fall? How can blood appear on glass if no struggle took place? Why were there signs of disturbance in a space that should have been untouched if he was alone? These questions turned that night into something far larger than a private tragedy. They transformed it into a mystery that called into question the boundaries between truth and fiction, between accident and intent. For fans, the night of his death became an unsolvable puzzle, haunting in its incompleteness. For his family, it became a source of relentless torment, knowing that every detail left unanswered deepened the wound of loss. For society, it became a symbol of how easily clarity can be replaced by uncertainty when answers are withheld. The Night of Mystery is not only about what happened to Menglong, but about what it reveals to all of us. That the truth can be fragile, hidden behind locked doors and broken windows, concealed by silence and contradiction. It remains a night suspended in uncertainty, one that refuses to fade, because every unanswered question keeps his story alive, and every conflicting clue demands that justice must not end in shadows. From the very beginning, the story of Menglong's death has been tangled in contradictions, each one cutting deeper into the fragile bond between truth and the public's trust. Authorities described his fall as the result of exhaustion, stress, or personal struggle, a narrative of simplicity meant to quiet speculation. Yet the evidence told a very different story, one that refused to be smoothed over. Broken glass was discovered near the window, but the position of the shards did not align with the path of a natural fall. Blood stains on those shards suggested more than a stumble. They hinted at force, at conflict, at a struggle that should never have been ignored. Nearby, footprints appeared by the balcony, silent imprints of another presence that the official narrative failed to acknowledge. How could these details be overlooked if the goal was to tell the truth? The contradictions did not end there. Surveillance footage, a tool that should have provided clarity, was tampered with or vanished entirely, leaving gaps too suspicious to dismiss as error. Within Yu's pocket, investigators found 2 luxury watches belonging not to him, but to a friend who had hosted him that evening. Their presence introduced layers of doubt. Were they tokens of trust, or evidence of betrayal? At the same time, the curtain rod in the bedroom was discovered dismantled, a detail that seemed impossible to reconcile with an account of solitude and despair. Each discovery widened the gulf between the official statement and the reality of what people could see with their own eyes. These missing truths weigh heavily because they do more than confuse. They erode faith in the very systems meant to protect. When explanations fail to address the most obvious questions, people naturally begin to suspect concealment. It is not only Menglong's family who grieves, but also millions who sense in these contradictions a reflection of their own vulnerability, the fear that justice can be rewritten, that facts can be erased. The power of this case lies not simply in what happened, but in what has not been explained. Every broken detail, every missing answer is a reminder that the truth is still buried. And until those contradictions are faced with honesty, Menglong's story will remain less a closed chapter and more a haunting symbol of how easily silence can be disguised as resolution. The latest police statement fueled to the fire. When the police released their most recent declaration, many expected answers. Instead, the statement only raised more doubts. No mention of the missing CCTV, no clarity about the locked room, no explanation for the blood or the watches. Rather than resolution, the statement felt like erasure. And the public's outrage grew louder. The family's defiance. Hours after the announcement, Yu's parents faced the cameras. His father's voice cracked but remained resolute. Our son's life cannot be reduced to silence. We demand transparency, not excuses. Justice, not closure. His mother, clutching a framed photo, embodied a grief so raw it moved millions to tears. Their courage has transformed private sorrow into a symbol of public resistance. A global wave of emotion. Fans across Asia and beyond lit candles, posted tributes, and demanded accountability. Online forums in English, Korean, Japanese, and French all echoed the same question. Why does the truth feel so distant? What began as a tragedy for one family has now become a test of society's faith in fairness itself. New angles beyond the known story. But here's what hasn't been discussed enough. The locked room mystery challenges basic logic. If Yu locked himself in, who tampered with the room? The missing footage is not just a gap in evidence. It is a warning about how fragile truth can be when power intervenes. The global resonance in cultures from the US to Europe proves that the hunger for justice crosses borders. These are not just clues to a crime. They are reminders of how easily stories can be rewritten, and how vital it is for people to demand answers. Hope, fear, and the unfinished fight. The questions remain heavy. Was Yu betrayed by those closest to him? Was this night a setup disguised as an accident? For his family, his fans, and a world unwilling to forget, one truth stands firm. The fight for justice is far from over. His name has become a symbol, not of tragedy alone, but of resilience, defiance, and the refusal to let silence win. As the whispers grow louder and the silence deepens, one question remains. Will the truth about Menglong ever see the light of day? Or will it be buried in shadows forever? One thing is certain, the world is watching. Folded hands, thank you for staying with us through this emotional story. If you believe truth and justice should never be silenced, support us by subscribing to Update X24H, leaving a comment with your thoughts, and sharing this video with others. Together, let's keep the conversation alive.